If you didn't catch last week's episode, I invite you to either pause today's, go there first and come back, or once you've listened to today's episode, go back to last week's. And the reason is it's going to give you so much context as to why we're focusing on the 3 areas of awakening and how this can really change the trajectory of your business and your life as a whole. So last week's episode, we were talking about what does it look like to build really strong foundations so that you have no cap on your income, but also no cap on the impact and value that you can bring others and the impact you can have on the world. Like, what does it look like the initial stages, the building, the creating, that leads you to a point where you've got everything set up. And then from there, you can compound on what's already been made. But we also talked about how the journey to that point is a spiritual journey, and the spiritual aspect being integral. And so this week, I promised at the end of last week's episode to talk to you about the 3 areas of awakening. Understanding this is really going to change the game for you. You probably already know it. You just haven't heard it described in this way. So welcome to this week's episode of Your Power Packed Podlets. My name is Rachel, and I'm your business coach and mentor, and also your spiritual guide on this journey of creating impact, purpose, and meaning in your life, whilst creating time and financial freedom. So this week's episode has been inspired by an interview that I was listening to with a man called Joe Hudson. And he was talking about the 3 areas of awakening in a way that I hadn't heard it before, and I absolutely loved it. Because this is something that so many of us who teach the holistic path, we help people with these 3 areas of awakening without necessarily understanding at this level what it is that we're doing. And so in the School of Holistic Success, we focus on these 3 areas. But the way that Joe described it, it was just, that feeling in your body where it's like, yes, 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 thank you for describing it in this context. So I'm going to take you through these 3 areas because so many people get stuck. They get stuck with only understanding the awakening of mind. Some people get to heart and they understand awakening of heart. But the next one is where most people never fully integrate this awakening process. And so it always feels like a struggle. It always feels like patterns that have played out in your life keep repeating again and again. So whether you're listening to this for your own personal journey, or you're listening to this because you help other people, this is going to serve you so much. So let's begin with the awakening of the mind. What is the awakening of the mind? What is mind? I invite you for a moment to understand mind as it's the words, it's the interface. It helps us communicate what the body believes. It helps us put into words and describe what the body is feeling, the programs from which the body is running. And sometimes thoughts that we have aren't even our own thoughts. So there's a scientist, Caroline Leaf, I believe her name is, and she talks about this, how our thoughts are not in fact inside our head, they are around the head. I have no idea how that works, but she said they're not actually inside the brain, our thoughts. And what awakening of the mind is our capacity to understand that we do not have to believe everything that we think, and the conscious choice not to do so. So it doesn't mean that we cease to have certain thoughts. It's that certain thoughts no longer have power over us because we have the conscious awareness that we do not need to choose them. And so it's our capacity to see thoughts as they arise, to observe them, to not just be completely unconscious and thoughts are just coming about and we're believing everything that we're thinking and we're taking them as ultimate truth, because that's what we do so often, right? How many of your thoughts do you choose not to believe? How many times in the day do you have a thought and you think, well, that's bollocks, that's not true? How many times does that happen? How many times do you have a self-depreciating thought and you choose to believe it, consciously or otherwise? And you take it as your truth. And it might be a thought you've repeated, it might be a thought you learned from somebody else, and then you've unconsciously chosen it for yourself, and then you're thinking it as truth. And so awakening of mind is our capacity to see a thought and then ask ourselves, does this thought serve me based on what I desire and what I choose? And if not, I don't believe it. It is purely words. It is borrowed. It doesn't have to be mine. And it's then our choice not to follow through on that thought being true. And then we can choose another thought. When you see a thought like, oh, you're useless, oh, you're pathetic, oh, that's rubbish, oh, you look terrible today, and we can see that thought and then go, well, do I choose that to be true? And if I choose it not to be true, what's another thought I choose that is my truth in this very moment? That is awakening of mind. So lots of people get to this point, but without really fully integrating it, because the other two areas have not been awakened fully. So then we go to heart. What is the awakening of heart? And by the way, if you would like to listen to, this is my understanding through my own embodied experience, but also hearing what Joe was sharing. He shares it through his embodied experience and his understanding of it. So if you would like the link to watch that, it's on YouTube, just let me know in the comments and I can drop the link there. Awakening of heart. What is awakening of heart? It's not just about love. We think that awakening of heart is our capacity to love more. But I'm going to share a story with you to understand this. Because you can only love and allow yourself to be loved to the same extent you can hold and allow the opposite. So I was at the beginning stages, honeymoon period, with my partner. And I'd never opened myself up to being in a relationship with somebody like this before. And I didn't really understand why until I did understand. And something happened. We were out in like a group context and something stupid happened, like literally really not a big deal. But in my nervous system, it was this huge deal. It was shocking. I couldn't hold it. And I got up in that moment and I left the room and I had to go off for a walk on the beach on my own because it just felt like so much to hold. So there I am sitting on the beach processing all of these emotions that are coming up. And my partner, he comes and he sits with me. And he, very calm. What's going on? And I allowed myself to actually look at what was happening. And I said, to him, I'm afraid to love you. I'm afraid to fully allow myself to love you because I'm afraid of what might happen if I do. And so what I was doing in that moment is I was looking for reasons to run away. I was looking for reasons not to allow the love in, because what happens when you allow the love in? When you actually allow yourself to love and be loved at that level, is you're also accepting the possibility of being hurt at that level, of having your heart broken, of being abandoned, of being rejected, of the other person not wanting you in the same way that you want them, the other person not loving you in the same way that you love them. And so in that moment, it was a mini awakening to that, my realization that for me to allow myself to be loved and to love at that level required that I surrender to the possibility of being hurt at that level. Because this is what Joe was sharing. Your capacity to feel joy, the depth at which you can feel joy is in alignment with the depth at which you can allow the opposite. That you do not reject the other emotions. That you do not push those away or make them bad and wrong. Because it's when we allow, when we surrender to, when we take responsibility for, when we accept all of the human experience, that is when we can feel deep, profound gratitude to the extent that tears appear in our eyes. That we can love fully, because the full depth of love is also profound vulnerability. It's an openness that means that we can be wounded, and that can feel really scary. And so this is awakening of heart. It's healing all parts of ourselves that push away the very things that we want to feel because they're protecting us from the opposite. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that grows with time. And then we go to the third, the gut. He also called this the nervous system, and this is what really clicked for me, because I've always referred to this myself as the nervous system awakening. As somebody who, I've always combined fitness with yoga. So it's that really present, it's the presence in all of the exercise that I do, and this somatic awareness of the nervous system and how it responds to every thought, to every breath, to every story, to every program. Your unconscious, your subconscious is not just about mind, it's much more about what's programmed into your body and nervous system. That you have automated nervous system responses to what you perceive to be happening externally and what you perceive to be happening internally. And this is what dictates so much of your life. How you react to everything. Every single moment of every single day. It comes from the nervous system, this incredible biological technology that is your body. And so this really profound shift in your life is when you can understand how to program your nervous system, how to program your physical form to thrive versus surviving. And so what the work here is acknowledging every single moment that you go into fight or flight response when it is in fact not beneficial in that moment. Like how many times in the day, whether it's a micro stress response or a macro stress response, are you responding with stress to something where stress is in fact not beneficial? Because beneficial stress is when you're running up a hill and you're producing certain chemicals in your body that help you get up the hill faster. They switch your body on. Maybe you're driving your car and you have to have an automatic fast response. And stress response kicks in. Maybe you're lifting a heavy weight. Stress response kicks in. It's beneficial in that moment. But we don't then hold on to it. Because then we go from an anabolic state into a catabolic state. Catabolic meaning the body is breaking down, muscle and bone. So we have the beneficial stress, and then we go back into rest and digest. And we actually train ourselves to acknowledge the programs that are in our body that cause us to experience stress when it's unnecessary, and we reprogram that. So that we can stay in a state of beingness, and this be our dominant state. And then we switch on the stress response when required. We acknowledge when it no longer serves us, and we slide back into beingness. And this is the third element of the awakening, where we have that connection with the mind, the heart, and the body. We have this awareness. And we're able to observe the human experience, ourselves having that human experience. Sometimes in the midst of the emotion, we can watch the emotion. And then we take the lessons from that and choose to how it helps us to grow on the other side. I'm going to leave you with that for today. And I invite you to go away and consider, contemplate upon these. What are the practices that can help you on a daily basis to create these little awakenings? Because that next level of awakening that you are potentially ready for, and remember the words of Carl Jung, awakening is not about seeing light beings, it's about bringing the unconscious to conscious awareness. And for this to happen, it doesn't serve to move in the same circles you have always moved, because the messages are always the same. It is so important to get yourself into environments, conversations, and teachings that stretch you beyond your current understanding of yourself and reality. This is where greater levels of awakening can happen, because it is the mirror for you to see where you are currently limiting yourself, where you are currently believing things that do not serve you, where you are currently holding on to nervous system programs and paradigms that are keeping you creating more of the same. So what are those environments going to be for you? What are those conversations going to be? What are those teachings going to be? Now, if you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, go back and listen. Go all the way to the end. At the end of last week's episode, I talk about this is what we do in the school. The School of Holistic Success is not just about being an entrepreneur. It's understanding that your business growth, your income growth, your financial growth, your impact growth, these are the lenses through which your spiritual growth happens. Every single obstacle on your path is teaching you where you are still in lack, fear, and scarcity, where it is programmed into your nervous system, not just your mind, where it is a wall around your heart. So you can see what that is, you can bring it to conscious awareness, and you can release it so you can expand to your next level. So for those of you, this is what you want. You want to grow in business, but you also want to grow in spirit, body, and mind. Joining the school is going to feel like home. It's going to feel like a very expansive home. One where exponential growth becomes your norm. If you wish to discuss the options of joining us, you can send me a DM, or you can go to my Instagram, click the link in my bio, and you'll see the brochure and then all of the membership options. I look forward to answering any questions you may have. And any of you who want to join the school, I really look forward to welcoming you in.